In the first book of the Bible, Genesis, there's a powerful and ancient story about two brothers named Cain and Abel. These brothers were the sons of Adam and Eve, the very first human beings created by God. As the story goes, Cain was the elder of the two and worked as a farmer, tilling the soil and cultivating crops. Abel, on the other hand, was the younger brother, and he devoted his time to being a shepherd, caring for the flocks of sheep. One day, both Cain and Abel decided to present offerings to God as a sign of their devotion and gratitude. Abel carefully selected the very best portions of his flock, the finest, most unblemished sheep, and offered them to God. His offering was sincere and wholehearted, reflecting the deep reverence he had for God. God looked upon Abel's offering with great favor, pleased by the quality and the purity of Abel's heart. Cain, however, took a different approach. While he too decided to bring an offering to God, he did not choose the best of his produce. Instead, Cain simply offered some of the fruits of his labor, without much thought or care. God, who sees into the hearts of all, was not as pleased with Cain's offering. He recognized that Cain's gift was given without the same level of devotion or sincerity that Abel had shown. This difference in God's response sparked deep feelings of resentment and jealousy within Cain. Cain became furious, not only because his offering was not favored, but because Abel's was. His anger and jealousy began to consume him, poisoning his thoughts. Sensing Cain's inner turmoil, God reached out to him, offering words of wisdom and a warning. God told Cain that if he chose to do what was right, he would find happiness and acceptance. But if he allowed sin to take hold of him, it would lead him down a dark and dangerous path. God warned Cain that sin was like a beast lurking at the door, eager to control him, but Cain had the power to master it. Despite God's warning, Cain could not overcome his jealousy. The resentment he felt toward his brother Abel only grew stronger with each passing day. One day, when the two brothers were out in the fields, Cain's anger reached a boiling point. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, Cain picked up a rock and hurled it at Abel with all his might. The blow was so powerful that it killed Abel, leaving Cain standing alone in the field, his hands stained with the blood of his brother. After the tragic incident, God approached Cain and asked him, "Where is your brother Abel?" In a defiant tone, Cain replied, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God, who knew everything, confronted Cain with the truth. God said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." God then told Cain that because of this grievous sin, he would no longer be able to cultivate the land. The ground that had received Abel's blood would no longer yield crops for Cain. Moreover, Cain would be cursed to wander the earth, never again finding a permanent home. Realizing the severity of his punishment, Cain was filled with fear and despair. He cried out to God, saying that his punishment was too much to bear, and that wherever he went, people would try to kill him in retribution for what he had done. But even in the face of Cain's terrible crime, God showed mercy. God placed a mark on Cain, evidently a sign or symbol, to protect him, ensuring that no one would harm him. This mark was a divine safeguard, a reminder that while Cain had committed a grievous sin, he was still under God's protection. Cain then left the presence of God and went to live in the land of Nod, a distant place east of Eden. He was now in exile, separated from his family and the life he had known. The story of Cain and Abel is a profound narrative that carries deep lessons about human nature, morality, and the consequences of our actions. This story teaches us about the destructive power of jealousy and anger. Cain's inability to master his emotions led him to commit an irreversible act, one that not only destroyed his brother's life, but also shattered his own. It serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of managing our feelings and making choices that align with what is right. Moreover, the story of Cain and Abel illustrates the concept of divine justice and mercy. Even though Cain committed a heinous act, God did not abandon him entirely. The mark placed on Cain was both a consequence of his sin and a sign of God's ongoing concern for his well-being. This duality reminds us that while there are consequences for our actions, there is also the possibility of redemption and protection, even when we have strayed far from the path of righteousness. In the broader context, the story of Cain and Abel invites us to reflect on our own lives and the choices we make. It challenges us to strive for sincerity in our actions, to master our emotions before they master us, and to remember that even in our darkest moments, there is a divine presence that cares for us, and offers us the opportunity to find our way back to the light.